Is bread actually a scam? You can't imagine what is happening on the marketplace currently. This video will be packed with insights, with alpha, with information I can't share because there is a bunch of information I can't share, and we will actually try to figure out if bread really is a scam. First insight I can give you, there is a high chance that Andrew Tate holds bread and Toshi. I will provide you with a full overview of what is happening on the market, why bread started to get a bunch of FUD. Is Crash actually the developer behind bread and he was pushing this token with insiders, sniping the whole supply? What connection his friends actually have and why Crash decided to support Andy on Ethereum instead of Andy on Blast, which most of his community was already actually invested in? And what's going to happen next? Should you be selling your bread currently, or should you be actually buying on the dip? And we will actually figure out if this is a scam or not. Let's start. It all started with this thread about 8 hours ago, but some threads were essentially shared a bit earlier as well, with Shady essentially sharing that thread about how bread was not actually a fair launch and insiders were holding over 81% of the supply before most people could actually buy in. There were quite a lot of FUD recently before this thread as well about insiders being connected to bread, and some people in some circles were saying that bread team is shady at best. At the same time, they were admitting that execution was really nice. Let's actually try to figure out if they would be able to sustain the project with their execution or if bread is going to zero. Maybe once this video will be published, bread will already go to zero. But for the meme coin market, it's probably not going to be great. Let's see what will be happening. I will provide you with all the information and my point of view on this thing as well. People like Invest with Rex made nearly 1,600 Ethereum for tokens they got for marketing that were bought during the whitelist phase. Invest with Rex is your typical meme coin shooter. So he has like TikTok account, 6k followers, he was shilling random meme coins all the time, and he basically just got allocation to bread to shill bread initially, right away. And I believe on some of his recent Telegram messages, he actually was sharing that he has $7 million in bread, even more than Crash was showing on his public wallet. And there are some rumors that Crash has way more on his private wallets as well. I do believe that one of the main risks that bread is facing currently is low liquidity of the project, because if one of the initial larger holders would actually decide to dump, he can just dump to zero. And funny, we already have a candidate like this. We already have one guy who is famous for dumping just in one candle, who is thinking and saying publicly that he might be dumping his bread. I will actually show it to you in the end of this video. It's just crazy if this would be happening. But as mentioned, it will probably be bad for meme coin space because I think more and more people will start to adopt this type of behavior. We already had certain FUD on Boba happening a couple of days before, which got lifted away, neglected, and Boba is doing fine right now. How much in dollars that's actually is? It's $48 million. He made $48 million. That's just crazy. Moving forward. So this is the thread with connections of the wallet, right? And the guy is saying that yesterday RTB and Maxi point out that when bread launched, there was a short amount of time where only whitelisted wallets could buy. So only people that are whitelisted by the smart contract of bread could actually had a chance to get into the token. I looked more into it and found that the whitelisted addresses were passed into the constructor when the contract was created. So this is the guy essentially pointing out that it was not a fair launch for bread. During the first hour after the launch, only whitelisted addresses could buy. This restriction was lifted an hour later. A total of 25 such addresses belonging to insiders bought 20% of the supply in that first hour. This shit stinks bad. It might just have been an insider influencer, like a default project. So where you get a bunch of influencers initially, you give them allocation, they shill the project, and then pretty much the market decides what is happening. But usually these type of projects, they're not doing well because insiders, influencers, they are not the members of the community, and they've been in the industry for a lot of time. They know other people and other influencers. There are influencers that are dumping like right away. People like Carl, for example, he's very, very famous in the industry for just dumping his bags like right away with no regrets. And it's quite interesting because there is no native community in the whole space, and in the meme tokens like that, they don't tend to hold because they're not cults in the first place. You actually need cults. You need true believers to actually have your meme token pump up. But at the same time, if you have a lot of influencers and insiders early in the meme token initially, and if they're not selling, there is no sell pressure from initial buys, the token can pump very, very much. And Brad pretty much pumped from like 0 to 850 million, which is just crazy. But what is interesting is what will be happening currently, because each and every of these insiders, he can dump the whole thing because liquidity is so low. Liquidity is 2.7 million, and these guys, they have millions in Brad already. It only takes one of them to dump to just crash the whole thing. But if the project would be able to live through the FUD, it would be very, very bullish. At the same time, just because of the fact that they have such large bags, because of the bad correlation between liquidity and the market cap, it's kind of like a time bomb anyway. Like at certain point of time, they will be dumping. And if they will not be dumping currently, they might be dumping in the future. And only if this thing will actually live till retail will be coming in. So they will actually be dumping on retail instead of dumping on us currently. I hope it makes sense. You can see all of the whitelisted wallets by looking at the end of the transaction data when Brad was deployed. There were 139 whitelisted wallets altogether. 108 of them bought during the whitelist period. 108. It's probably like a default KOL influencer launch. It's very, very interesting to see Crash involved into something like this, if this whole thing true. I took the time to map out every transaction made by the whitelisted wallets before trading went public, and the results are insane. Over 81% of the supply was held by these wallets before anyone else could buy. Check out these transactions here. That's, I would say, one of the reasons of why tokens essentially are pumping hard. And a lot of people on Twitter are saying that it was actually clear and clean and understandable initially that the reason this thing pumped is because 80% of supply, like large percent of supply, was being held by insiders. Because if no one is selling and you have a limited supply of the token, it's actually easy to pump this thing up. But the issue that you are getting at the end of this whole thing is that all these guys sitting with all of this supply that was on paper like tens of millions of dollars, right? But they cannot take profits. And if some of them would be taking profits, they would be just dumping the whole chart heavily. Invest with Rex is a TikToker that almost exclusively shields coins he's paid to do so. He shields them both on his TikToks and his Telegram channel. Whitelisted wallets sent nearly 2% of the supply to Rex. That's crazy. 2% of the supply of Rex. That's millions of dollars. He began dispersing it to fresh wallets before selling and sending the Ethereum back to the wallets that received all of the bread. I created a diagram where you can see all transactions here. So he basically sent his bread to different Ethereum wallets to sell from different Ethereum wallets, but he was pretty much selling from new wallets, probably just to obfuscate the fact that he is selling and to make it not so obvious. And interesting thing we actually have to ask is what type of due diligence all of the exchanges are actually doing that were essentially listing bread. It's very, very interesting. And I'm not saying the project is a scam, because the project is a scam only if it ranks to zero. Luna, for example, is a scam. Solana is not a scam as it didn't went to zero. Yet, a lot of people actually lost money if they actually decided to sell. Would be very, very interesting to see if insiders and early holders will cannibalize and just eat each other, or if they're probably just like on some emergency meeting currently. Guys, we're not selling, don't sell, don't sell, don't dump on each other, don't sell. And then maybe like one guy I will actually show you that is not in these circles, who was just buying early with volume, with a nice chunk, and he will just dump anyway. I will show you this guy because it's so funny. Like when I saw a tweet from this guy, I decided to record this video because I actually had a different video planned for today. I found his wallet off of profit screenshots from some of the coins he was shilling. While he blocked out the token amount, he didn't block out the sell value or the conversion rate. I simply did the conversion and found the wallet that had the amount of tokens. Examples. So he pretty much used screenshots to be able to find conversion rates and probably the times at which he was showing and trying to sell these tokens. All of his wallets lead to the maxi deposit address. You can be sure this is his because his main wallet sends funds here as well. God, it's so crazy that blockchain is actually an open ledger and you can read anything there. His maxi address helped me find that he received large amounts of tokens to shill many coins. His addresses, Brett, Emerald DCE, and Ring DGI. So here he pretty much proves that the Brett address that received 2% of the tokens and that tried to obfuscate the fact that he's selling through sending a bunch of tokens to a bunch of wallets and selling through new fresh wallets is actually the address of Rex. He shilled all of these coins undisclosed on his TikTok and in his Telegram as seen in the following screenshot. So he was shilling all of these tokens on TikTok and things like that. It's very, very interesting. Like a guy shilling a meme token on TikTok making millions of dollars. Like 1,600 Ethereum is like $48 million. Just a guy shilling a meme on TikTok, knowing right people. That's just so crazy. I called him out in his Telegram today and it resulted in him turning off the ability to reply to what he says. Something interesting as well. What should you take from this? Don't believe everything you see. While there are plenty of people who actually can win in meme coins by scanning contracts all day and sniping, most people you see flexing insane wins are insiders or people who want to dump on you. Don't let the FOMO get to you and make irrational decisions. Stay in your own lane and trust what you see on chain, not what you hear on Twitter. Move at your own pace. Also drop me a follow. So what this thread essentially shows and proves that this was an insider coin, that 81% of the supply was bought by insiders who were whitelisted in the first hour of the launch of the token. Rex was the one who was shilling this token as well. He made crazy amounts of money on this and he was also dumping through the whole process, screaming to his followers through his TikTok, buy, 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 buy. And all the people who were screaming about buy his bread, they were most likely dumping as well. I do think that unfortunately Crash was doing this as well because there are a bunch of rumors that his public wallet is definitely not the one that he only has. He probably has like much more bread that he probably was taking some profits on because he was also taking some profits on Boba. And in general, it's nothing bad with taking profits. I do actually like how Crash used his public wallet because this is actually an example of genius marketing, I would say, because he knew initially that the project has a bunch of insiders. He knew that they control all of the supply. He knew that they will probably not be selling because of it. He knew that because of it, the token will be pumping a lot. And he actually created this video like I'm turning 15K into 500K. And after that, he was constantly sharing his wallet. And because liquidity and the market cap correlation is so bad on Brett, just small chunks, small inputs of liquidity, they will already provide you with a bunch multiplier. So let's say you bought like 5K worth of bread at like 10 million, you already push market cap by several millions already. And everyone who's holding bread, they actually see like crazy amount of X's. But these are the X's that are on paper because there is no liquidity on the token. And like how well Crash actually controlled the market share and how well Crash actually controlled the mind share with sharing his wallet and constantly saying, guys, I have like 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. And unfortunately, these are the funds that are on paper. And he was publicly saying that I will be holding this wallet till like 50 million, 70 million, 100 million. But most likely at the same time, he could have been taking profits from other wallets that he essentially has because knowing Crash in all of other picks that he actually had, like in Boba, he was taking profits. In Rido, I believe he was taking profits as well. And there is a high chance that he was also taking profits in Bread, just because of the fact that back in the bear market, there was a project called Monkeys that he also called. He bought like a large percentage of the supply himself, with the team of that project actually dumping on him in the process that he didn't know of. and he just rolled the whole thing up, like from, I don't know, like 200k market cap to 40 million market cap, and then he basically just rolled the whole thing down. So he had like millions in the bear market, and he decided to write this thing down without dumping on his followers. And I think it actually taught him a lot and inflicted a lot of pain. And we, in all the things that are happening, we definitely see the evolution of Crash, because several days ago I started to understand these things even before the FUD started, because some things about Andy on ETH, some things about Max and Crash, and about Crash, about like things that he's saying, they start to compile into the whole picture. And I started to understand some things from the way of why he's pushing his insider friends, why he's pushing tokens with insiders. I was asking questions like, does he not play this game fair? Because like, why he's not calling projects just like from the market? And I was thinking like, are like his projects actually have a bunch of insiders that push the projects up? And maybe is he not like the great trader as he is, and he's just pushing stuff that has insiders? I'm not, by the way, speaking about Bobo here, because Bobo was in the bear market for like 10 months. Anyone could have bought Bobo. That's actually one of the reasons of why I'm thinking that Bobo is a blue chip, because in the market, in the bear market, pretty much was in 10 months. Anyone could just went and you know that my entry points on Bobo, like I was buying Bobo as like a retail like normie that does not know crypto at all, because I was buying Bobo all the times when it was trying to actually break out. And like my average in Bobo because of it is like 4 million, where most of the time the market cap on Bobo was like 2 million and sometimes 1 million as well. But I will share you some things about evolution of Crash that I'm essentially seeing from my end, and I will explain to you the reason behind that, because I believe it's very, very interesting. And one thing that, like, I'm not saying any negative things about any people here who are involved in the whole thing, and I don't think that you can actually call Project a rug as scam if it did not rug. If it will rug, and it might have a high chance to rug currently. I think they're definitely in some type of emergency meeting currently, talking to each other like, don't sell, understand the potential, we can still hold, we can still dump on retail, then dump, but it only takes one person. The issue with this thing is because like it's born dead. It's not alive initially because it does not have liquidity. It just takes one guy, and I will show you the guy, to dump the whole thing to zero, because liquidity is just not there. And if they would have a better liquidity, it will never pump that much, because they were advertising like a bunch of times that it's the largest meme coin on Base, and it's not. Toshi is largest meme coin on Base, because liquidity on Toshi is way larger than on Bread. So it was kind of this overtake of influencers when they saw the narrative of Base, and when they decided, man, it's crazy. They pretty much overtook Toshi and kind of stole Toshi place. The same thing that some of the guys that were involved in Bread actually did with Andy on Blast. Same type of behavior, same type of influencers. It's so crazy to understand these things. And I was showing in one of my previous videos that Max, who's shilling Andy on Ethereum currently, he was not buying his Bread. He received 100k Bread from the team of Bread, probably from Crash himself or someone close, right? And he was also speaking and like creating these charts, like buying to Bread and things like that. And he was selling at the same time, right? And I think this is the main reason why Crash actually decided to support him, because he understood that like default shilling from other influencers, like guys on TikTok and things like that, it was not already working at that stage. It was not already working at like 400 and 500 million market cap. But when Max started to create charts, when he was starting to compare the performance of Brad to Pepe, and he actually started to create like these beautiful charts with technical analysis and things like that, he was able to persuade more people to actually buy into. And that's why I think Crash actually supported Andy on Ethereum in the first place, because he was kind of paying back the fact that Max helped him to push Bread. It's so crazy that the whole picture starts to combine. The same reason they tried to overtake Toshi on Base with Bread, the same thing was pretty much done with Andy on Blast, with Andy on Ethereum. And in the first place, we have projects with organic community that were created organically on the market. And in the second case, we have projects with a bunch of insiders with bad liquidity that are just holding, but with any amount of FUD, it's actually very, very easy for them to dump. But I will actually tell you why Crash decided to do things the way that he's doing currently, the evolution of the whole thing. And here we actually come into the first point. To be honest, insiders having a large percentage is kind of bullish as long as they're not ruggers, which clearly Brad hasn't been rugged. Insiders are not going to sell on a little 15-20% correction, but normies are going to panic and dump it. This is something that essentially might lead to the fact that Brad will actually survive. Obviously, we have last guy that I'm going to show you that has a chance of just dumping the whole thing, and he's famous for dumping the whole thing, right? He already did this on Andy. That's just crazy what is happening. We are coming to the reason why Crash essentially switched from trying to play it fair on the market, right, to start to do things with insiders. Because the main reason, the main bullish point is that if you have insiders, and like these are rich guys in the first place, they know that they know and they are essentially accustomed to long-term gratification. They can't hold the tokens because they see the bigger picture and they understand that if their insider bullcrap pump and dump scam will essentially survive till the end of the year, till real retail will essentially come in, they will be able to dump way more and they will be able to make way more money. And the battle that you actually are starting to get with Brad, for example, probably with Andy on ETH as well, is that what if some people would decide to dump currently because it's already enough for them, even if they're insiders, versus people who are ready to hold and are ready to actually dump till retail and are actually understanding the whole picture in the first place. And I think this is the main battle that is happening on Brad currently. If Brad will actually survive current FUD, it will be very, very bullish for the project, and there is a high chance that they will be holding this thing. At the same time, we don't know what is happening. We don't know what will be happening in bad market conditions, because despite the fact a lot of people are essentially fighting the market currently, selling and thinking that we are going to 40K, we are not there yet. And memes are still holding quite well. And we might actually see capitulation on memes and them doing well if BTC will jump to something like 40K, for example. 40K BTC. This is why I was actually telling you, and this is why in my criteria where I am analyzing memes, I'm saying that did meme actually go through 80% correction? Because 80% correction will actually mean that initial insiders, they dumped the bags already, because most likely they're not called like members, they received the allocations for free, they pushed a bunch of the followers to dump on them and for other insiders to actually dump on them, so they pretty much just robbed them out of the money, right? And if meme token went through 80% correction, that would mean that the only believers are there who are left, right? That's why I'm saying that Bobo is actually quite nice, because let me show you something. Boba definitely had a bunch of people from meme community who were buying it, right? But even through initial pumps, it actually was dipping. So people who were not believing into the whole thing, right? Right here, for example, went 60% down. So all the like insiders, pump and dumpers, people who didn't believe, they definitely sold. Right here, 60% down again. Easy sell for them. For people that don't believe in Boba, right here, 66%. We did not have corrections like this on Brad. Right here, 60% as well, 52%. So this is why I'm actually quite safe and quite confident about my Boba bags. And this is why I'm saying that Boba is blue chip. Because the people who were like insiders, pump and dumpers that did not buy the coins, that were just like pushing the followers into this thing, they most likely have sold already. So to sum up the whole thing, if you have insiders initially into the token that are buying low supplies, they will be able to hold. So you would be able to have rocket-like movement up. Therefore, you will be attracting attention of the market. People will feel FOMO. You will tell about this project on different shows, different YouTube channels, right? You will even cause more FOMO. This thing will even go more up. But you are getting an issue that no one is actually able to take profits. And when some fund actually comes and when some people would want to take profits, they will probably just be dumping on each other. And most likely the fact that your project rocketed means that the liquidity and market cap correlation is just bad. Therefore, there are a bunch of people who are holding millions on paper in these things, thinking that they are millionaires. But liquidity is like $3 million, and only one of them can only take profits, because if he's taking profits, he's just dumping the whole thing 100%. So it's like you're on a French gangbang party and there is only one 50-year-old woman there. And let's say you're holding your breath, right? And you want to take profits and you're not an insider. There are 50 black guys before you to actually have sex with her first, before there is your turn, and you are 51st, right? And probably she will not have enough liquidity for them. Probably this 50-year-old lady would unfortunately die after 4 to 5 first guys. This is what you have to envision if you're holding bread. I think it's a very, very nice analogy. It's very, very understandable in the first place. Evolution on Crash. So if you're following Crash, I am the member of his private community from summer. I actually do like the guy. Like, he was part of the reason I got into Bobo as well. I was buying it in the summer, but his conviction definitely helped. In sometimes my conviction actually helped him, I think, as well, because we were talking on Bobo in his private Discord as well. And I actually followed him from the last cycle as well. I think he called top on BTC as well. And in general, I do actually like Crash. And I think what happened is essentially Crash was one of the first to start to shift into meme coins, because he shifted into meme coins like a year ago, way before this like bull market retail phase of the market actually started, right? And most likely because he understood that altcoins, VCs are just dumping and things like that. And Crash was pumping meme coins. He was pumping monkeys. There was also hopes like the dog. They were like doo-doo. I still hold them, like 0 of them in my wallets, which is quite funny. Like, they just went to the whole 0. And I think something that he actually understood is that pumping shitcoins in a fair way, where like poor people on the market, JITs, can enter your meme tokens, is actually bad, because JITs and poor guys, they will always be selling. Like, they will put their money in like $500, $700, $200. They will sell after 2 to 3, 4x. They will have zero conviction to hold because they are afraid for their money, right? And I think this is something that was happening to him multiple times, because if you're following Crash in autumn, he was, for example, pumping Wolf on AVAX as well. He was talking about other different projects, and most of them, they unfortunately went back to 0. Like, let me show you the chart of Wolf of AVAX. Red token on red chain, right? So here initially, back in December, here is where Crash was pumping it. Unfortunately, the chart on CoinGecko does not show it, but he pretty much called it at like maybe 400, 600k market cap, right? And they went up, they probably went up to like 20 million, 30 million, somewhere around that. And then they went down because people just decided to sell, because it did not have a lot of insiders, because it was just public, like followers of his channel. And the issue with these guys is that they are not investing anything, because like someone who's shilling the token, like me, for example, Crash, we are betting like our reputation. We're using our media channels that we've worked on for a lot of time, a bunch of hard work. We are putting them forward, our reputation, when we are shilling the meme token. And you guys, you're actually able to just watch the video, see the call, just buy it, and you are free to sell like anywhere, because even if some like media guy who's buying the token, he cannot like take proper profits, because probably his wallets are being watched, or it will essentially cause some FUD. It will essentially hurt his reputation as well. So I think this is the shift that actually happened in Crash head as well, because he was chilling and pumping like back in autumn. He was doing a lot of things on Solana as well. Back in autumn, he was pumping a lot of memes, and he saw that a lot of them, they eventually were just going to 0, because JITs were JITting, his followers were selling as well, and he was probably receiving quite a lot of hate because of it. And over time, he probably saw and understood that tokens that have insiders, they tend to pump better. So more people essentially tend to praise you and provide you with a positive feedback, positive comments, because the tokens are actually pumping up and people are holding. And that's something that happened to me with Andy on Blast as well. After my videos, Andy on Blast actually reached $50 million market cap. Then Max came in with this insider strategy and with his buddies buying essentially the supply of the dead token. They started to pump it. The execution was definitely nice on the whole thing with the exchanges, with him kind of bull posting. Crash was, if you would say, Crash was supporting it actually from day one, because when Max was pumping Andy on Ethereum, Crash was already reposting his post and saying like he's a great guy, go like subscribe. And obviously when people subscribe, they go on the Max page, they see Max pumping Andy on Ethereum. But it's not about Max, it's about holders and followers of this channel, for example, as well. I do understand that you just don't care. You just want to make money in the market. You don't want to marry your bag. So the thing that you actually have done, you've sold your Andy on Blast and you bought Andy on Ethereum. And a bunch of people pretty much had done this because we went from like 50 million market cap to like 10 to 12 million. So you in general just don't care. And we as people who have to bring these peaks, my thesis on Andy on Blast, like man, if it would actually get supported, it would be like $1 billion market cap meme. I think it still will be doing well. I think we will be seeing some very, very interesting thing happening with Blast and with the whole ecosystem with Andy on Blast, that's for sure. And it's definitely not an insider pump and dump as well. At the same time, because it's not insider pump and dump like some clones of this meme on Ethereum, right? There are less people who would actually be holding because currently we see a correction on the market. And what Max has an option to do, to say, he has an option to come to his team, to his buddies and say, we were buying these at the bottoms. We all invested 5 to 7K. Our 5 to 7K are worth millions of dollars currently. Let's just not dump. Let's just not dump. We will make sure to push this project harder. We will make sure to actually make sure that this project will survive. So we will be able to dump later when retail would essentially come. And then it's essentially up to his team, up to the members, up to people who are holding Andy on Ethereum to figure out if they would essentially be able to survive. And that's the same type of question that we probably have for the bread. And I would say that there is a reason why Bobo is holding so well, because Bobo community is cult-like. Bobo Billions is so important. It's so actually smart to actually come up with something like that. Bobo Billions. It just comes to your mindset. And you think, you know, selling Bobo and then Bobo Billions. Why am I selling? It's actually so smart with this type of phrase. If you would actually think that it's kind of, it helps the cult to be as one, right? So Crash pumping shitcoins, realizing poor JITs were dumping, and his reputation was suffering. He was receiving a bunch of hate. Crash started to pump coins with insiders as it was better, and they were not dumping, and his efforts were providing more results. I would say that mostly connects to Brett because Ton Rideau corrected heavily after Crash started to initially like shield it. It corrected heavily. Bobo, the same thing. Like Crash done his first video on Bobo in October. No one gave a fuck. It pretty much was just laying at the lows, right? Crash starts to support his insider friends as they help him to pump his insider project. So that's the situation about Crash and Andy on Ethereum. And to be honest, the way I felt when Crash supported Andy on ETH is like my mother is essentially letting my father go, right? And she's bringing some random guy into the family, and then she says like, this is your father now. Like, it felt like betrayal. I definitely felt a lot of pain, and I'm talking to some community members of Crash, people who were supporting them in the bear as well. They definitely felt a lot of pain because of it as well. Because personally, I was thinking to send like a bunch of tokens of Andy on Blast to Crash like myself. I think Andy on Blast team would essentially do that as well. And if he would support that thing, it would be just a very, very nice and a very, very nice and crazy story as well. Because I would say it's organic in the first place. And I would say the thesis is definitely nice. Like a yellow character on yellow chain, and Andy on Blast contract is the first one. So all others, they're essentially copycats in the first place. But we have what we have. We have a very, very interesting situation. Let's see how it will unfold. I would say if the market corrects, they're fucked. Like if you're going to 40K, they're fucked. Their reputation is fucked. and they're probably not going to do very, very well. And main thing is because we have someone like James Wynn, the GOAT. This crazy guy. So he initially got funded because he pretty much sold 300,000 worth of ND on Ethereum, and he sold it just in one candle. So that's not something like you essentially sell these things. And Max, he was like very, very angry about it, despite the fact that Max essentially shared that like, congrats for taking profits and things like that. He was very angry about it. And the guy is also famous for dumping Elon, because he pretty much shilled Elon 0x69 for 20, like this PvP short-term meta on Ethereum with these memes, right? He basically shielded and pumped it to 30 million, and then he basically just dumps like 150k of it in one candle. And he's saying on his Twitter something that I got to know some information, I didn't like it, so I dumped in one thing, right? And something that he shared today actually forced me to record this video because it's so funny. Can someone confirm or deny this is true? I have over $4 million in bread. And will seriously consider. So what are these guys doing? What Bread team is doing currently? They're probably calling this guy. They're probably trying to send him messages, and they probably like persuaded all of them, all of the capital, like don't sell, please don't dump, please don't do it. We will send you more tokens. We will actually get a plane and suck your dick off and do everything you want. Just don't sell your bread, please, because this guy has power currently, and he is a famous dumper of all these insider meme tokens. Probably he will not be invited as an insider to new tokens as well, but I do believe that he's just quite nice in terms of sniping new things on DEX tools, on DEX screener. I do think that he's just nice in trading live pairs, and that's why he has all of these crazy positions, because he had like millions in Pepe, he has like 500,000 in Boba as well, he has some money obviously in bread, and 4 million in bread that he has is more than liquidity pool. If he's dumping all of his 4 million in one candle, bread just goes to zero like right away. I think they all are in panic. Like Cabal right now is in panic. They're calling this guy, please don't dump, please don't do it, because all of the reputations, all of the things that they were working so hard on the market, they would just go to zero right away with just this guy pretty much dumping. And he's a famous dumper with the whole project. So I do actually think that he's kind of making fun of the whole thing, because he understands what type of power he has, with them understanding that he actually dumps, with them being so insecure and so angry of the fact that he dumps. But the reason he dumps is it's not about this guy. It's about the fact your memes are structured in the first place. They're born dead. They don't have enough liquidity. They pump to crazy market cap and they don't have enough liquidity. They're like, if your project can be dumped by one guy, that's a dead project in the first place. And what you are doing with pushing all of your followers into these dead projects is you're pretty much robbing them out of the money. Obviously, if they're buying at the top, because the guys who are buying at the bottom, they're probably very, very thankful to you. They will take your profits. They will not take any hit to their reputations, and you're risking all of your reputations. And they will just leave. They will just follow a different influencer. It's definitely not structured well. So in the direction of these influencers and guys like Crash and Max and others, that it's very, very risky to actually try to push these type of tokens, because it's very, very easy for them to essentially go down and went down. So we see that bread is actually holding quite nicely currently, 2.5 million of liquidity. So there are definitely some people buying, seeing this as an opportunity. But yeah, the main question is whether or not someone like James would actually be dumping. And the thing with bread is that it's not only James, it's not only him. Like, he's just public about it, but there are like a bunch of people who are holding millions in bread. And these are paper money. And I think they truly have like an emergency call meeting with them, like, don't sell, guys, we will go through it, it's all gonna be all right. But as mentioned, if we are going to 40k Bitcoin, if we are going into the larger correction, into sideways action, into the summer, I would say that they will get fucked, because some of them would eventually take profits, because they cannot control all of the insiders. And at the same time, there would always be guys like James who probably bought these things just early, just from the market. He's not an insider. He's just a guy who knows how to trade like live pairs. He's entering good projects with size initially. That's why he has large bags. And if like one guy like this can dump your project, it's not a great project in the first place. So to sum up the whole thing, do I think that all these projects are scams and these guys are scammers and things like that, despite the fact they essentially robbed me of my end on blast peak? Well, at this stage, we will know what will be happening and what future will unfold. I'm just staying with the things that I'm confident in. I'm just staying with the things that I believe in community, I believe in the team, I believe in the narrative, I believe in the upside potential as well, because there are so many bullets you can actually fire in this market, like centralized exchange listings. When you are listed on the exchanges, you cannot relist on them. So it's not a catalyst for like more people to buy into the whole thing. And if you're following a meme that did not list on exchanges yet, you do understand that essentially they will have an option to do that, right? And I would say that there is quite a lot of sense to not list your meme tokens currently, because I'm thinking about these things on Boba, right? Boba is only listed on MEXC. It's a 120 million market cap meme token currently. They definitely have a bunch of exchanges reaching out to actually try to list them. And I think this is a strategy on purpose, because there is no reason to be listed in the current market on the exchanges because we don't have much retail. Everyone who wanted to buy, they will just buy on chain. Everyone knows how to use Uniswap, how to check out DEX Screener, DEX tools, because there are no retail players on the marketplace currently. And probably you don't want holders that want to buy from SAGs because they can't pay like $10 on Ethereum transaction, right? That's not something you essentially would want from your holders in the first place. So I think from Boba, it's a very, very like one of the, like Boba is a blue chip. Like this team, one of the smart tactics that they're essentially doing is that they will probably just be waiting till BTC will be reaching all-time highs, till we will have more retailers in the market, and they will start listing on exchanges. And most likely, they will also be listing on blue chip ones. That might be one of the strategies as well, because you don't want to list on tier 3 things, because if you're listed on tier 3 things, sometimes larger exchanges would actually decline to list your project because you are already on a bunch of tier 3 exchanges, right? It does not make sense for them from the reputation point of view. But if you only have the project on something like MEXC and Binance and then like Coinbase, if you would actually be seeing something like this on Boba, it would be so bullish, so great. So there are only so many bullets you can fire in this market. And if all of the bullets are getting fired right away, there is a high chance that there is insider job. I'm not calling people scammers because I don't want to call people scammers. We all are just in the market. They're definitely risking their reputations and everything that they've built. And this is a very interesting chart that I actually wanted to show to you as well. So scam, VC, cabal, corporate, predatory meme coins, organic meme coins. Valuation: immediate, massive valuation. Cheap sideways early period plus gradual growth. Something that we did not see on several meme coins that I mentioned. Boba case, for example, 10 months at the bottoms, no one cares. Listings, very fast centralized exchange listings. Gradual centralized exchange listings after months on chain. As well, you can make some parallels. You can think for yourself, right? I'm not saying anything. Trash memes that make no sense. Often zero memes, right? You can make some parallels, hilarious memes with past history. Like this chart is so great. That's the only thing you actually need to be successful in the market. But at the same time, you kind of, in some cases, you want to right curve, because James Wynn is a smart person. He's also right curving these things. He probably understands that these things are pump and dumps and like scams in the first place. And he understands that probably they will be able to get a bunch of the followers of these guys to dump on them. But what James Wynn is doing instead, he is buying himself, he is waiting till the project tops, and he's dumping himself. So he's milking the followers of these guys instead of these guys thinking that they will be able to milk the followers. That's why they're angry. That's why they are so aggressive about these things, because they want to milk the followers themselves. And there is some other guy. So it's like you're getting, like, you're going out with one girl, you're giving her presents, like multiple dates, and you've spent like several $1000s in presents and things like that, and then you just have random guy come and fuck her, and then she does not want to have sex with you. That's exactly what James Wynn is actually doing. He's a G for that. Origins came out of nowhere, developed organically. Marketing content, cringe, techie, force, paid. As well. Tasteful, community made, relevant, unique. Bobo Billions. Like, if you were just following this recent fad and you just heard a guy on this space, he was saying, you're all retards, I would change this world, you're all idiots, Bobo Billions, you're all idiots, Bobo Billions, you're all idiots, Bobo Billions, Bobo Billions, Bobo Billions. So it was so funny. It's definitely community made, it's relevant, it's unique, it's tasteful. And just look on how other things are being shot. Volume, algorithmically painted. So we all know that Andy on Ethereum had 25 million volumes initially on Dex Screener. These are bots. Like, that's not something that is happening. Organic volume. So just understand these things, and either this cycle you won't be able to get scammed on the meme coins, or you would actually be able to become a Jedi, a G like James Wynn, the god, who is milking these influencers that plan to milk the followers, and he's having sex with the girl that these guys were nurturing for so many months. And after James Wynn actually had sex with this girl friend zones the guys that were nurturing it for many months, doing all the hard work, putting their reputation at stake. James Wynn is a G. VC presence, obvious VC involvement. As well, you can say this about some things. Zero VC involvement. Distribution, shitty concentrated ownership distribution, something that we saw, wide ownership distribution. Pushers, pushed by sketchy QLs and scammers. Pushed by organic community members. Do you see me as sketchy QL and scammer? I don't think so. Deals, weird backroom OTC and investment deals. Something that we figured out was happening, no backroom deals, everyone bought on chain. Liquidity, giant liquidity out of nowhere. I'm actually afraid that you cannot see this because, so I would just zoom it in, right? Giant liquidity out of nowhere, very sketchy market makers. So we saw that in Brett at some point of time, like 4 to 5 million were added of liquidity for some reason, because they probably got tired of all these acquisitions, and then this liquidity was essentially removed. Very sketchy market makers. The same when Max was saying about market maker on Andy, it felt like initially he wanted to say the name. He was saying like what a great market maker we have and things like that, but then he decided not to. Interesting. Gradual liquidity thickening. Makes sense. Community composed of rich scammers plus poor idiots. Makes sense as well. Can you actually see this? Let me check. Yeah, you can. Made numerous poor grinders rich organically. Yeah, so this is something you actually want to follow. Cultiness, no loyalty, no rates, paper hands, mercenaries. Exactly what we are seeing. Stubborn artists, strong evangelism, religious zeal. Bobo Billions. You're all idiots, Bobo Billions. You're all idiots, Bobo Billions. Examples, Boom, Maneki, Meme, Mew, etc. Examples, Pepe, Popcat, Michi, Monk, etc. And now, we have the final touch to this video. We have final thing, because again, I don't want to say and tell like anyone is a scammer, this project is bad. I learned my lesson, guys. I'm not going to essentially do something with my freedom one more time, right? We have Pepe. Pepe was accused many times of the fact that it was also an insider job. And team, I think initial team of Pepe, they essentially racked. They still might be holding some of the supply, but this, like, Pepe is an example where this insider pump essentially turned into a community-owned project. And there were a bunch of people who were essentially selling Pepe at the top or close to the top once it actually reversed, and I think Max is essentially one of them. The reasons for that is because, as I think currently, is because they understood that it seems like an insider pump. It was able to get a bunch of attention, but it might be going down because all of these insiders, they will probably be dumping the bags, right? But they were able to form a community. People like Plasma, people like KegZ, like Siakasa. Like Siakasa is a G actually. I do want Siakasa to see him on Memecoin show on Crypto Banter as well. They picked up this whole thing. They started to be like proper cult-like community members. Like Plasma, he was sharing things on pepe on a daily basis in the bear market when no one cares, when pepe was trying to break out like multiple times, 400 million, 500 million, back to 300, 500 million, 600 million, back to 300. He was constantly essentially sharing these things. So they became this force, they became this community. And pepe was actually able to transform. And this is, I would say, the main question that we should have in the current cases as well. We definitely have someone like James Wynn. And a funny thing is that James Wynn might have an option to dump like both of these projects in the first place. I'm just telling you about the things as they are in the first place. And I do think that currently they are either begging him not to do like this type of stuff, or they are threatening him. Like, if you will do it, we will kill you. We will actually we'll actually kill you, because he's actually playing with the reputation of the whole thing. But you might need to understand like how stressful they would be moving forward. And I would say that it's just because like these projects are born dead in the first place. And the current situation is alright. If the market will turn back up and we will just go up, they will probably be like gods. So it's probably going to do very, very well. If we will actually go down, it will be so crazy for them. We will probably, like these things, they will probably just dump. So it's interesting. It's kind of like a leverage position on your reputation, on your followers. So either it will work out and you will not get liquidated and you will be actually making a bunch of money and a bunch of good stuff is going to be told about you on the marketplace, or you're actually going to get liquidated. It's quite interesting. So in the road, in the hunt for money and for recognition, they are entering leverage positions on their reputation, on everything that they've built for many, many years already. That's so interesting. And obviously, like, there are a bunch of guys in this market that got liquidated on their reputation many, many years ago. And they're just pumping and dumping. Like, that's something that that's probably one of the reasons why these guys are doing these things like that, because they're seeing all other people actually making money, not caring about reputation, not caring. So we have to give kudos to these guys for the fact that they are not there yet, right? So they're not pumping and dumping. They're actually trying to make these projects work and things like that. We will definitely see what will be happening with both of them. My bet is that if we would actually be entering like a reversal, a sidelines action, they will get fucked, because someone like James Wynn, he will essentially be taking profits, because he's probably not an insider. He sniped this thing on chain, on live trades, and he's doing well, right? And it's fair. Like you cannot push or control someone to buy or sell. It's just that you are risking your reputation. You're risking everything you've built. And this guy, he's just chilling. He's sitting naked in his apartment or his house, smoking weed, like sniping your live trade shit, right? And just selling on you and milking on your followers, destroying your reputation in the process. But that's something that they've decided to do. And maybe they did not know that essentially things will turn out as they will. Again, just to sum up, do I think that Brett on base is a scam? I don't think that anything is a scam until it actually rocks. And we do have this thing in the market that scams actually are pumping the most. And the main reason for that is because they have a bunch of insiders that are not selling. Even if you would actually check out pepe chart at this stage, you would see that there are a bunch of holders that are holding way more funds than there is in liquidity. So they can also just dump this whole thing down. So we can see that overall liquidity is 36 million, right? Top 2, top 3, top 4, top 5, top 6, top 7, top 9, top 10, right? They all have more in their value than essentially liquidity in this coin, right? So if something like really, really bad would be happening, if the market will be dumping like 100%, they will be selling and they will be dumping the whole thing like just to zero. And you have to understand these things as well. We do have the same thing on Boba, and we probably have the same thing on most of the memes as well. Because only when you have like a liquidity and market cap ratio like 1-to-1, then it will be like 100% fair. But in this case, it would be very, very hard to actually push the project up. It would be very, very hard to make like 2x's, 3x's, 4x's, and things like that. So I don't think Reddit is a scam. It's unfortunate, and I feel a bit bad that things happened as they happened. I misread myself, and probably if I would be holding it back, I might have been talking like a different thing. But even when I'm holding it back, I'm trying to kind of say the truth about them anyway, like telling about things as what they are in the first place. But if Brad will be able to survive current FUD, it will be bullish, because it would mean that they essentially consolidated all the holders and made sure they won't be dumping. But they will be dumping in the future. But if they're not dumping currently, that would mean that they have plans to hold till like retail comes in, and then we all can be happy. We all will just dump on retail, make our millions of dollars, and be very, very happy. So it's an interesting type of situation. We would either dump on each other and take each other money, but it's not a lot of money in the market currently. Or we would be able to dump on retail, probably like VCs that will be coming on FOMO into the market. A bunch of people will probably be selling and repositioning their altcoins into memecoins because they will underperform this cycle heavily. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting what actually would be happening. Again, Pepe lived through the situation like this. Pepe is fine. Pepe is right. Wintermute is market making Pepe currently. Pepe is the largest exchanges and things like that. And the main issue for these projects might be the overall correction on the market and sidelines action. Like if the market will go down to 40K, right? What will be happening? Will current holders actually just eat each other? And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm essentially waiting for these things to see a larger correction if I would be entering, and essentially see if it would actually be worse for me to enter. Because when I'm entering these things, I do understand that I'm on a French gang band party. There is only one 50-year-old woman, and some guys before me, they might leave already because they already had sex with her and she's still alive, right? But I will still be like 26, 27's, like 34's guy, and I'm paying way more. I'm paying way more than these guys to actually have sex with her. Therefore, they actually don't value and they don't actually appreciate the fact that they can have intercourse with her. And I would appreciate it more. I would be holding to my opportunity to have this intercourse because I paid more money than these guys that entered like early or were insiders that got sent the tokens for free and things like that. And maybe they just paid 7K and now they have millions. And I will be paying like 20, 30K and I will have like maybe 100, 150, 200K, right? A great story on the market. Let's see how it will actually be ending up. Very exciting. I hope you would understand how this thing works. Essentially, moving forward, again, not negative about anyone, not calling anyone a scammer. I just very important for my audience, for me to let you know my audience how this thing works and to give you an option to right curve these things as well. Because if you think that it's an insider project, it will be doing well, maybe it's actually worth getting in because you know that insiders won't be dumping, they will be listed on the exchanges, and they probably will be pushing the project because their reputation essentially stays on these things. But at the same time, you have to be very careful because any second they can dump and just let the price go to zero. Exactly the same situation we actually have in Pepe. So you have to know that if you are in these meme coins, like it can go to zero any second, and still people decide not to. And the main reason they decide not to is because they have a vision of long-term gratification where they wouldn't be able to dump not on you, but on retail. And you just have to follow people that you think would be able to wait for that. And not people who are up to making TikToks and dumping their allocations exactly at the same time. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will be seeing you tomorrow.